Listen up, hockey fans. You're in the right place. A no-hold-barred debate between two hockey fans. Stay up to date on current issues in the NHL, even the controversial ones. Welcome to The Debate Hockey Podcast with your host, Brad Baroud.
Welcome to The Debate Hockey Podcast. It's October 22nd, 2017. I'm Brad Baroud, joined alongside co-host Blake Friars. Tonight, we talk about Vegas, the surprise in Vegas. Also, Montreal problems. Is a disaster in Montreal? And replay inconsistencies.
Inside Edge Hockey News. Bringing you inside the game.
First topic tonight on the debate is the Vegas, and the Vegas surprise with the record getting off to a 6-1 start. Pretty unexpected. What's your thoughts on Vegas, Blake?
Vegas has got a lot of veteran forwards. James Neal, Riley Smith, proven goal scorers. James Neal's a two-time 40-goal scorer. David Perron, William Karlsson, he's a rookie. He scored the OT winner last night, and it's just like the thing that I think about Vegas is the tragic that struck Vegas, and I think they're really rallying around that, the tragic that happened there a few weeks back, and Fleury's obviously out right now, but they're full of veteran forwards and they got a lot of leadership.
So you think this team's for real? You think when we get to February, we're still talking Vegas in the playoffs?
I mean, obviously it depends how long Marc-Andre Fleury's out with the concussion, and Malcolm Subban's out 4 weeks. But I mean,
well, I think if Fleury's back in 3 weeks, this team's still going to struggle. I mean, if you look, honestly, I'm happy that Vegas is doing well because it's a fun story, and with the tragedy that happened in Vegas, and even hitting close to home with people we know being there. But I think there's more to this than what we've seen so far. And where I'm at with that is you look at who they've beat this year.
Yeah.
They've beat Dallas, Arizona, Boston, Buffalo, and St. Louis.
Yep.
Now, who's for real in that? St. Louis? Yeah, for sure. Last night's win was big.
Yeah.
Was big. Even with the injuries and last night was big. But you look, Dallas 2-1.
Maybe Dallas.
Dallas hasn't been the Dallas that I thought Dallas was going to be this year.
Well, they got Ken Hitchcock. He's got a good structural system.
Honestly, I think Ken Hitchcock is one of the smartest guys in all of hockey. But I'm just saying that team is kind of off to the start they were last year. Yeah. And that surprises me because if you look at my predictions, and we're going to go through those again at American Thanksgiving because we both did our predictions, and that's something we can really get into because that American Thanksgiving seems to be that time frame where we really want to talk about that. But they beat Dallas by 1 goal. They beat Arizona by 1 goal in overtime.
Yeah.
And then they knocked them off the next night 5-2. Lost to Detroit 6-3. That was actually a really entertaining game back and forth. This Vegas team's fun to watch. I will give them that. Mm-hmm. Then they beat Boston. Boston's been a failure this year. Then they beat Buffalo in overtime. Buffalo's been a bust this year. Last night's one I'll give to them, but now they're up against Chicago.
Yep.
And if you look at their schedule coming up, it's for real now. So whether it's Fleury in net or Malcolm Subban or...
They got this Oscar Dance kid who drafted by Columbus. Put up good numbers in the AHL. Obviously, that's not quality of the NHL, but his first ever NHL action was last night, and he got put right into the fire, and he came up with a couple big saves in overtime, and William Karlsson pulled through for them in overtime.
Oh, and absolutely. What I'm saying is you can only go to the well so many times in one-goal games, and I think this team's going to struggle just with, I highly doubt James Neal can keep this pace all year. It's fun to see. It's a great story, but when you're dependent on James Neal, Riley Smith, and David Perron to carry your team to the playoffs, I don't think they'll be there, and I think when we get to American Thanksgiving, they'll be out of the. They won't be out of the picture just because they're off to such a good start. They've gathered so many points. I mean, it's amazing. I just don't think that they're going to be sitting second in the Pacific come American Thanksgiving.
Oh, I'm totally agree with that. But you look at their back end. You got Derek Englund, local kid, and he's a rock solid back there.
Oh, and we watched him in Calgary, and he was fine in Calgary. But I mean, is Derek Englund?
He's not a top 2 guy, but he's there for leadership. You got Lucas Beasley, you got Jason Garrison.
I like Garrison. He's a good defenseman.
You got all proven guys in the back end that can help carry a young Vegas team. They got some rookies, but they got a lot of proven proven 20 to 40 goal scorers on their team. And if yes, you're gonna.
But a lot of those 20 goal scorers had a lot of help with them. Had a lot of talent up front with them. Look who James Neal's been playing with over the years.
Yeah, he played with.
He isn't playing with Riley Smith. I mean, he's not putting up those points with Riley Smith. This is going to be an interesting topic, and I think it's one. American Thanksgiving. We may better put this one on the calendar to talk about this one again. This is going to be a good topic.
Well, it all depends on how long Fleury's out for. If Fleury's out for another week and a half. I've seen today there's no timetable whatsoever for his return. So that's obviously a big concern for Vegas. But they're getting Eric Haula back next week. He had a good year with Minnesota last year, and they're getting Jonathan Marchessault back on Tuesday. He put up 30 goals last year, so they're getting some offense back for the squad.
I think is funny is people are talking like Malcolm Subban, losing him last night's the end of the world, and I'm not knocking Malcolm Subban, but in Boston didn't get rid of him for nothing for no reason. Mm-hmm. So, I think the big key is when Fleury gets back, and this is something I want to revisit come American Thanksgiving.
Inside Edge Hockey News, faking the slapper and going top shelf.
Topic 2 on the debate, the Montreal Canadiens and the disaster that their season has been. It is. People are going bonkers in Montreal. What do you think, Blake? Where are we at with Montreal?
Obviously, there's some room to panic in Montreal. It's one of the biggest hockey cities in Canada. I mean, their fans are very passionate. They have the most Stanley Cups in the history of the league. They're used to winning.
Irrelevant. Haven't had one since before you were born.
Since '93, yes. But I mean, you look at the teams they played. They squeaked one out in Buffalo. They lost 6-1 to Washington. They lost 2-0 to the Rangers. They lost 3-1 in Chicago. They lost in overtime to Toronto, and then they had that disastrous California road trip, which is very tough. They played 3 games of 4 nights and against 3 good California teams. So it's
absolutely.
Very tough.
Anytime you go out to the West Coast, no doubt about it. I don't care what team you are.
Yep.
It's a grind, and that's a battle to get through.
Absolutely.
But let's look at the numbers. Let's really look at the numbers here. They're 1-6-1. They got 3 points in 8 games. Here's the numbers that are really. Their point differential is -20. Mm-hmm. -20. And here's the real kicker. 13 goals in 8 games.
Yep.
You're not going to win many hockey games scoring
absolutely
13 goals
not.
in 8 games.
But when Pacioretty's got 1 goal in 8 games, he's your captain. I mean, you're really not going to win very many games, but he's not going to play like that for the rest of the year. I mean, last year he had 36 goals and 67 points in 81 games.
I like Pacioretty. I do. I like him. Actually, I heard rumors today that they were looking to move him. I don't believe that either. No. There's a lot of rumors out there all the time. I don't believe that. But here's where I really worry, and that is when you've got Drouin, Plekanec, Danino, and De La Rose as your centers in an NHL where it is proven day in and day out that that's where the core and that's where your depth needs to be.
Yeah,
that's not getting you to the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, I have complete full confidence that Bergevin is on the phones as we speak right now, and
but you can't just pick up centers though. Who are you going to pick up?
He's calling teams like Colorado for Matt Duchene. He's calling New York Islanders for John Tavares because John Tavares, he's got 1 year left on his deal.
If they get Tavares, I mean, that's a game changer. Absolutely. Because I consider Tavares one of the top 5.
Absolutely.
I do.
But they have pieces, too. They have...
but what are you going to give? They gave up a young defenseman.
That young defenseman, Juleson. They got Juleson. Okay. They got Terry Lehkonen. They could put in that deal. And they got, obviously, their first-round pick that they would probably be willing to ship off in the deal, and the way that the trade talks are going with Duchene, I don't think it would cost that much to pry him out of Colorado because Joe Sakic's got such a high trade ask for him, and teams aren't willing to bite on him.
Oh, I have no idea. We're not in the room. We don't know what Sakic's been asking, but obviously it's too high.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he would have been moved at the draft, and I still think it's a huge mistake that Colorado didn't figure out a way to move him at the draft, but that's past now, and there's nothing that can be changed on that. But I just look at, you got a guy like Alex Galchenyuk. They ran him at center over and over and over and over, and it doesn't work. He's not a center. They want him to be a first-line center. I don't think he's a third-line center.
Yeah, he's a.
So what do you do with him? What do you do with him? Do you move him?
They could move him in the Duchesne trade.
But what? Yeah, and that's been talked about, and we've heard quite a few rumors on that. But what are you going to get from him? He's got in 8 games this year. He's got 1 goal.
Yeah.
1 point. He's -4. He's had 14 shots in 8 games.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good enough, and I mean.
And where were we with Carey Price? Now he's got the big contract, and Carey Price is no doubt about it a top end goalie.
I mean,
but what have we seen this year? I mean,
their back end's depleted. It's simply that they lost Semenko to injury. Shea Weber can't do it all himself. I mean,
so you summed it up though. I love Shea Weber. I think Shea Weber's the best defenseman in the league, all around defensively. But here's the deal though: if you have a great goaltender in Price, we know that.
Yeah.
But you've got a defensive core with Weber, which is good. But from there on, it's not up to NHL standards. And you have an offensive core that, to me, lacks scoring drastically. So that scares me. How can this team turn this around and make the playoffs?
I mean,
with the talent they have right now. And Drouin has actually been pretty darn good this year.
Yeah, he's got 5 points in 8 games.
He's doing way better than I thought he was going to do. But what I'm saying is how do you rally the troops with the talent you have and get those points back?
Well, I think it's going to have to be sparked with a trade. I honestly do. I mean, that happens all the time in the NHL. You look at last year. Who was it that made that trade at the deadline there, and they squeaked into the playoffs? Anyway, I can't remember, but they.
But the thing is, trades are. We say that all the time. Everybody says when their team is struggling, "Oh, we just need a trade. We need a trade." But who's going to give up a first line center? Nobody. I mean, you're going to have to get lucky and get a guy like Tavares from the Islanders, because the Islanders have to move him because he's not going to re-sign there because they don't know where they're going to play and all this. And you know what? My gut tells me that Tavares will sign with the Islanders, and I don't know why I'm saying that, because if I was him, I would be history, because the day they moved to the Barclays, I would have been history. Mm-hmm. You can't play hockey in a basketball arena. That place is a joke. Mm-hmm. Now, if they go back out and build something out in Nassau and get this thing going, I think so. I think that can be a thing. But the Islanders have been muddling in mediocrity for so many years now that I just really have a hard time believing that, I don't know, that if I was Tavares that I would make the move. But I tell you what, you're right. If Tavares lands in Montreal somehow, some way, that will be a game changer. But I still think good hockey teams are built from the back end out, and I think that's what they were trying to do when they got Weber.
They were doing that, but I mean, they lost Davidson. And they traded Davidson so they didn't lose him for nothing in the expansion draft. They traded Bellew for a 4th-round pick.
That's
irrelevant. That didn't make much sense. But he's got 5 points in 8 games with Buffalo this year. He could have really helped out. He's a good puck moving defenseman for the Canadiens last year. Mm-hmm. I mean, you look at him last year. He had 28 points from the back end last year.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. I just think it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to build quick. So are they going to have to start talking rebuild?
No. You got a core of Drouin, Alzner, Weber, Gallagher. You got Philip Deneau. You got Victor Métis, who's playing with Weber this year. He's actually been a bright spot for Montreal this year. But the biggest concern with me is Montreal is you're paying Thomas Plekanec $6 million to be your third line center.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm saying. That's where there's problems.
They have to try to move him. If they want to get,
they're going to have to eat some salary.
Tavares, they have to free up some salary. Yeah, because Tavares is not cheap. He's getting $9 million.
Yeah, and boy, I don't know. I'm really, that is something I'm sure we'll talk about on future shows for sure. Is Tavares? I think that'll be good. But let's wait and see what happens with Montreal. I say they're out. You say they're in. Let's see how it all falls out.
Inside Edge Hockey News, bringing the NHL to the fans.
Topic 3 on the debate: Coach's Challenge and the inconsistencies, and honestly, Blake, the ridiculousness we've seen this year in the NHL. It's crazy. 32 coaches challenges as of the 22nd of October. 23 of them been upheld, 9 have been overturned. So, a couple things to talk about. What is your thought? Do you like Coach's Challenge?
Absolutely not. I think it's not trying to be blunt or anything. I think it's a joke. I mean,
so you say just eliminate it completely?
Eliminate it completely. Get rid of it out of the game completely.
I think the thought process of the Coach's Challenge is I like it. But I have been shown over the years that it doesn't even work.
I mean,
and that sucks because you know what? It should work. It should work every time. Because when you can take... There's a couple problems. I think every Coach's Challenge should be viewed by
the command center. Yeah.
The command center.
Yeah.
The last year when these poor officials were standing there with iPad minis.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, give me a break. Number 2, though. It takes so much time.
Oh, I mean, look at the Vancouver Buffalo game. The Jake Virtanen offside play took 8.5 minutes to review an offside penalty.
So there should be a 2-minute limit on it. Okay?
Exactly.
But here's the deal. Even they take 8 minutes now, though, and they still don't get it right.
Exactly. It doesn't
That's the part that blows my mind. And you know what? Here's another thing. Every year we come up with more and more and more rules. We keep bombarding, and I'm not protecting the refs here by any means, but we keep putting more on them every single year to get this right, get this right, get this right.
Hey, look at the slashings. This too. Like
I'm for this. I'm for the crackdown on the slashing. And I'm fine. I think they've handled it appropriately. They were a little over the top in the preseason, but they were sending a message.
That's just
and they backed off now.
Good to crack down.
But we can't have leagues. We can't have superstars in the league.
Like
We can't have that happening on ticky tack things that are irrelevant. You shouldn't be slashing that way. Slashes are slashes, but that's crazy. But when you look at this, there's been 8 of them challenges for offsides. The reason now they instituted the penalty if it's not overturned. I like that. I like it. My first vote would be get rid of it completely. But I like the penalty. But because you look at last night how it changed the game in Calgary.
Yeah.
Calgary has a coach or Boudreau. Calgary scores. Boudreau challenges it for an offsides. It's found to be a good goal. They get a penalty. They take another penalty on top of that for a slash seconds later to start the third period. Goes to a 5-on-3. Calgary scores. And I mean, the Minnesota did come back and win that game and everything, but it changed that complexion of the game. So I'm fine with that, and I think it makes coaches think, because last year it was just overwrapped. Oh, geez.
See if this is offside.
Just
stuff like that.
They were calling it on ridiculous plays, just using it as a timeout and stuff. But now I like the where it's gone. But you got to get it right. The league has got to figure this out. They've got to make the instant replay booths got to get it right. And if they can't get it right, then we need to get rid of it.
And you look at the goalie interference. That's another thing that's highly talked about within the NHL.
Well,
it's very inconsistent. And
there's been 19 of them this year so far.
Yeah.
In the 3 weeks of hockey we've played, 12 have been upheld, 7 have been overturned, 5 to no goal, 2 to goal.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
it's such a loose rule.
You look at the last year in the playoffs, Edmonton and Anaheim. There was 3 or 4 instances where it was goal interference, and they didn't call goal interference, and it ultimately costed Edmonton a chance at going to the Stanley Cup final. I mean, do you really want that dictate? Do you really want a coach's challenge dictating the outcome of a playoff series?
No, I don't. But as fans and as owners and as players, we're going to complain either way. We're going to complain because the instant replay guy got it wrong, or we're going to complain by the refs got it wrong. But you know what? I think I'd rather complain at the refs, because at least they have an excuse that the game's quick and it's an instant decision. Mm-hmm. It really ticks me off when the league has time and they're looking at it over 5 minutes and they can't get it right then? Because, I don't know, are they trying to protect the ref's call?
Yeah.
What's the reasoning? And then they had to come out with press releases the next day and say, oh, yeah, we did blow it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you did.
It caused Colorado a win. Yeah.
But, I don't know. I vote to get rid of replay. What do you think, Blake?
Yeah, I think it just it delays the game, and I think they should get rid of it.
Thanks for joining us on the first ever episode of The Debate. Check out Inside Edge Hockey News for all your hockey news. Check us out on social media, and also most importantly, download us, The Debate Hockey Podcast, on your favorite podcatcher. Check us out on Spreaker, SoundCloud, iTunes, iHeart, Radio Line, and YouTube. Blake, great first show. I had a good time.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you coming, and I look forward to a lot of good shows this year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very fun this year.
Well, we'll check back with you next week. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Debate Hockey Podcast with your host, Brad Baroud. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit InsideEdgeHockeyNews.com and on Twitter at InsideEdgeHOCKE and Facebook at Inside Edge Hockey News. We'll catch you next time.